in this, forgot to bring up the webinar page here. Oops. Re-illusion webinar. A couple things to know about before we get started here. We're going to be basically talking about a little bit more of advanced animation. You've probably already seen this page that I'm going to right now here. So this webinar is titled Advanced Animation Techniques with Cartoon Animator 4. Here's the demo outline. We're going to talk about transition curves. We're going to talk about throwing an object, basically bouncing a ball, and then utilizing stretch bones for exaggeration. And at the very end, we'll probably try and get into some facial animation. And anywhere as we go along, if you have any questions, please put your questions in the Q&A section of your go-to webinar, or your Zoom panel there, rather. It's a long time ago since we've used that. Your Zoom panel has a Q&A section. Put your questions in there, and I will get to those in the last little bit of our webinar, so after I've done the live demo. And as always, we are sending out a survey for you guys. If you fill out the survey, you'll get a 10% discount from the content store. And we are recording this for posterity. So if I go through anything too fast for you, we can always review it at a later date. I'll be sending you out a YouTube link. And we are also recording this, or live streaming this rather, live on YouTube as well. So just be aware of that. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm not going to be answering questions from the YouTube chat. Please log into Zoom and put those questions in the Zoom panel there so I can get to those. Okay, so a couple of web pages to go through before we get started here. The first is our weekly special. You can see here the symbol heads. I'm going to throw this in the chat window for you guys. I'm going to be using the chat window just to basically give links to you guys here. Boop, 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 there you go. So basically, a huge discount on all this stuff, $58 down to $5. Basically, the sale ends today. So if you pick this up, pick it up right away after the webinar, $5. You get a lot of cool stuff in there, and you can browse through this all this content on your own time. In addition, we have a survey. We're going to be basically sending out another survey. With this one, you get a chance to win. You get a free character 2D Toon family as a gift on August 18th if you filled the survey before August 15th. So this is basically just a general survey about Cartoon Animator. Any of the stuff that you want to see in the near future. So this is a features survey. So if you want to see anything in the future, put it in the survey. What you think of the software so far, please put it in there. And I'll throw this in the chat window there as well for you guys. There you go. Okay, I don't want to spend too much time talking about all this jibber jabber. So let's go ahead and close down Chrome. And like I mentioned, we're going to talk about animation today, some more advanced animation techniques that may not be easy to naturally come by when you're animating with Cartoon Animator 4. I'm going to play back this project really quick. We're going to talk about how to recreate this, and I'm going to go even further. We're going to make it even cooler after this. Okay, so let's go ahead and play back. You can see a guy basically jumping and doing a slam dunk. So I'm going to teach you guys how to slam dunk in this webinar. Not in real life. That'd probably take a lot longer, but in Cartoon Animator 4, very easy process. Okay, I'm going to just right click on my character. We're going to remove object animation. We're going to start from scratch. This character, by the way, I can actually just delete the character and bring him in. I'm using a character from the Campus Heroes content pack. You can find this, you have to purchase it separately from the content store, but this process can be with any character. I thought this character just kind of looked more sporty. So we'll go to under character, under actors here, characters. There's a G3 360 character Campus Hero pack. You can see right there. And we have Jared side facing. All right, we'll just bring him in. And I believe I resized him a slight bit just to make him a little bit larger to match the hoop there. Yeah, resized him quite a bit actually. All right, so let's just Nutrigrow Jared. Okay, so that's okay. I think the height is, maybe a little bit high for him, but or a little bit low for him. That's okay. Nothing is regulation in this example here. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to talk about is basically when you have a root motion. Now, if you're unfamiliar with a root motion is basically a motion where your character's position changes within the motion clip. Okay, now I'm going to give you an example here of what I'm talking about. If we go to our animation tab under motion, we have these this other content pack, G3 human mission moves. Okay, And we can probably put these in the chat window for you while I'm going through the examples, just so you have them. There's a stunt folder here. Now, it doesn't really have anything to do with missions. This is actually a pre-made slam dunk motion here, okay? So notice here that we have a couple of motions where there's kind of like lines behind the character. Like this one right here, walk sneakily forward. Okay, there's two lines behind the character. That indicates that you're using a root motion. Okay, let me find the slam dunk one. You can see with the slam dunk one, we have 3 lines behind the character. Okay, so if I double click on the slam dunk motion there and apply it to my character, he'll move forward, and obviously we have to adjust the position of that. But you can see he basically moves forward. And we're not changing the position of the character at all. All we did is apply a motion. Okay, so that's called a root motion, where your character's root changes position. I'm going to right click and remove object animation just to remove that for now. Now let's take a look at something like this. Let's see if there's a jump here or a walk maybe. Let's go to our G3 human. Okay, so Turner's mail. These are all embedded with Cartoon Animator. Turner's mail side here. Let's look for, like, for example, a run sneaky, okay? Notice that this one, there's no lines behind the character, okay? It's just basically he's sneaking, but he's sneaking in the same position, okay? And what you can do is you can press F3 and go into your timeline. You can go to your motion clip, and you can see the motion clip right there. And you can try to, if you basically loop this, your character will just kind of loop. He'll sneak, but he'll sneak in the same place. So here it's up to you to go to basically the end of all these clips, like right here, and you have to physically move your character forward, just like this. And you'll see that when I move the character forward, there's a green line behind him, okay? So these are transform motions. These indicate you have to adjust the transform position of your character, okay? And basically, we're going to be combining a root motion with a transform motion a little bit later on in this webinar. So let's go ahead and play back. You can see now he's kind of sneaking forward like this. And there you go. Now, the cool thing about transform motions is if I open up the transform track right here, you can see there's a keyframe at the very end. And I can adjust that position. Once I'm at that frame, I can adjust the position of the transform wherever I want. Okay, like that. If I wanted to move a little bit slower or move a little bit faster, we can move it over there. Now, the one thing to keep in mind here is that sometimes you'll get foot sliding. Like, for example, right here, it looks like I'm pretty good. So if you see his right foot, if we zoom in on his right foot there, we really need to get a fast zoom feature for Cartoon Animator. The right foot looks like it's staying in position. It's not too bad, okay? And then moves forward to the left foot. However, if I move it back like this, let's take a look at what happens when the foot lands. So you can see the foot lands, and it's kind of like sliding along the ground there, okay? So you have to be aware of that when you're doing a transform motion where your character is moving forward. Obviously, he's not moonwalking forward, so his foot shouldn't be sliding like that. So we can just, press Control Z and get back to his original position, and boom, there you go, no foot sliding. So sometimes it's a bit harder to find that exact position. So you have to, trial and error for your transform position. Okay, that's the difference between a root motion and a transform motion. Okay, so what I'm going to do first is let's go ahead and right click, remove our object animation again. You can see that removes everything from the timeline. We're going to be using the timeline quite often in this webinar. So it's good that you know the F3 hotkey. Press the F3 hotkey to bring up the timeline and bring it down. Okay, you can also press this button down here, show timeline. But F3 is something that you're going to use all the time. So I really recommend having it. Okay, let's zoom out. So the goal is to get our character to slam dunk on this hoop first. Okay, I'm gonna show you how to add basketballs into the character's hands a little bit later, because that's not really the focus of this webinar. But let's go ahead and go back to our animation, where is it? The mission moves. Okay, in the stunt folder right here, we have the slam dunk. Where is it? Good thing they're all in alphabetical order. Slam dunk. Okay, let's move a little bit further back here. Apply the slam dunk. And he's like, whoops, totally missed the hoop there, okay? Now he missed it by about, I don't know, how many grid lengths here? 1, 2 grid lengths, we'll say. So what I want to do is there's a couple things I can do. The first thing I can do is I can move my character in frame 1. I can move him back 2 grid lengths like this, and that'll probably be okay. Yeah, okay, it looks okay. So that's the easy way to do it. But then you're like, okay, I'm restricted by the size of my project, so I can't really bring him back to grid lengths at this point. So what I want to do is, let's say, for example, the other option here is to have him right here. Okay, so he starts right here, and your camera is with this angle right here. And then he obviously goes too far. So what you want to do is you want to count his like footsteps basically. So he's 2 grid lengths would be about, let's see, now let's go frame by frame here. Okay, down here, 1, 2. Okay, so maybe that's about the position there that we want to cut that clip. So I'm going to press F3 and go into the timeline here, and we're going to right click on this clip and break it. Okay, and the beginning stuff, we're just going to go ahead and delete it. Okay, so now he's doing nothing. And then I want to take this second clip here and click and drag it to the very beginning. Now the problem here is he's going to kind of jump into position like this. So boom, 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 like that. Luckily, we have this little dot here, which indicates the original transform position. All right. So all we need to do is at frame 2, frame 1, frame 2, we need to bring him back to that position. So just slide it like this. And generally, the root should align just like that. And here we should have starting off and then boom. Okay. So there you go. Obviously, he could be jumping a bit higher. We could probably lower the net down a little bit. But I just want to show you that really quick fix there, because that's kind of how you can easily just break up a root motion and conform it to the position that you want. And obviously, if we wanted, we can change our transform position slightly. If I just double click on the transform track to create a transform keyframe, and then here, when he lands, when he's grabbing on the rim, we could probably just boost him up a tiny, tiny little bit. Okay, and if we go into our timeline here, you can see the transform track there. So, and then his hand will be grasping the rim right there. And then we want to have it in that position right up until there. And then as he drops, we can probably just, change the position where he lands, like further down, maybe like this. Okay, so then we've just adjusted the positions. There you go. So that's how you can use the transform and motion clips in combination to, kind of get the exact positioning that you want when you're using, pre-made motion clips. Okay, but say for example, you're in a bind, hey, I don't have this human motions mission moves pack or whatever. I need to create my own slam dunk. So that's what we're going to spend the next 10 minutes or so doing. I'm going to create my own slam dunk from scratch. I'm going to show you the cool things that you can do with this. So I'm going to remove object animation again on my clip. And this time we're going to start with an embedded motion. Okay, I mean, you can create your own run cycle. I don't want to spend time creating my own run cycle in this webinar because there's other stuff I want to get to. But I'm just going to use under motion animation G3 humans, the Turner's mail here. I'm going to use a side motion. We're just going to use a basic run. Okay, so we're going to use the run forward. Now, in case you're unaware, there's 3 run forwards here. There's run forward 1, S, which means start, run forward 2, L, which means loop, run forward 3, where is it? There you go. E, which means end. Okay, you can probably guess those. Now, another thing about root motions is if I double click on my root motion here, this loop, for example, and say I wanted him to run further than that, and I tried to loop this clip right here. So I just click and drag on the edge and loop it. Notice he'll go back to the root, okay? So what happens every time you apply a root motion, it's going to start from that root. So like here, and then he'll go back to the beginning. Obviously, that's not what we want. So the easiest way to avoid that is just double click on the item twice. So just double click on the motion once. And then here, what's happening here is when you double click it again, it's starting from that current position. It's not starting from the original position of the clip. Okay, hopefully that's clear as mud. So if you click again, this time he will move forward twice. Okay, So basically it just resets the root to the position that he's currently in and then goes forward like this. All right. So we don't need to do that. We just need like one kind of root run here. You can probably even start back further, something like this. Make sure you do all this adjustment at frame 1, by the way. Okay, so we're going to have him jump from here. Let's make him go further. I want to give him like some big air time. Let's just maybe take our hoop here. Zoop. And we're going to go back further. By the way, this hoop is actually from one of our developers' content packs, Gary Pye. You can go search in the marketplace or the content store for Gary Pye Sports. It's PYE. You can find it under, let's go close down our timeline here, under props. When you download it, props, Gary Pye, and sports. Okay, so you can see all the cool sports stuff here. We have basketballs and cricket balls, and he's from Australia, so they have cricket down there, and golf and football and all that stuff. And there's the hoop. Okay, there's a hoop and the separate mesh. We're going to animate the mesh a little bit later on. Okay, but let's get into that jump. Okay, so maybe from here, that'll be fine. We'll start from here. Okay, so we have this run. Our character is running, and we're going to have him launch off of his left leg. So if I press F3 and go into the timeline, we can see here, let's just focus on our character a bit more here. We have to launch our character. So the first step to launching our character is we need to have a starting point. So that he's kind of jumping onto his left foot at this point. And what we're going to do is we're going to go into select the character first, go over here to our 2D motion key editor. There you go, pops up. Now he's basically landed on his left heel right now. Okay, so what I want to do at this point, I'm going to lock my character's left foot by clicking this button here, left lock. And if I click on my character's hip right here and I move him around, notice that he's going to just, it's going to use human IK to kind of adjust the position of my leg. Okay, I'm going to just undo that for now, press Control Z. And one thing that you really need to, is very important to know for the rest of this demo here, is we have, it may confuse some people, we have 2 transform tracks. You can see there's 2 transform tracks on the left. You're like, what the heck's going on? What we're going to do is we're going to take out the major transform track here, and we're only going to focus on the sub transform track. That's a transform track under motion. And this transform track indicates, it's basically like the overall key, absolute key it's called, absolute keyframe for all of the keyframes underneath. So we have, you can see there's, why do we have dirty layer selected? By the way, one thing I always do is before I do these sort of animations is I enable object related track. So this one I have moused over right here, I can click on that. And then whenever I click on something like this background, for example, or like this left arm, you can see the left arm will come up. T stands for transform, S stands for sprite. Okay, we're not going to worry about sprite right now, just T. Okay, G for transform. And then left forearm, you can see it'll pop up. And we click left thigh will pop up. Okay, and you can see all the keyframes are lined up. I can move hip transform by itself, like here. Nothing else will follow. Okay, I can move back to here. If I move, let's just delete this one here. If I move this main transform absolute keyframe, all the stuff will follow. Sprite and layer won't follow because they're not influenced by transform. Okay, they're 3 separate things. But you can see all the other ones, all the T's, like thigh transform, left arm transform. Okay, everything kind of moved over. Anything that I edited has moved over now. Okay, let's just Control Z and undo that. Okay, so that's a little bit of, it'll be a bit more clear as I move along here. So we have the landing position right here. And maybe about, let's see, about 5 frames later, like frame 35 or so, we want him to go down into his crouch position. So we're just going to kind of go, like when you're about to launch, you have to anticipate the launch. So we're going to have our character go down into his crouch position. We'll maybe give him a few more frames there. Okay, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to just rotate the left leg there, okay? Land it like this. So from here to here, the left foot will kind of land like that. And then we're going to take the hip and move the entire body just like this, okay? So he's about to launch, and we need to take that left leg, or rather the right leg, and move it up, okay? And we're going to just move it up like this, kind of change the position. And we're going to talk about stretch bones in just a moment here. You kind of have to adjust it, bring it up a little bit. Whoop, not that way. Sometimes it's a little tricky to do this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to enable stretch bone here. Okay, so right here. And what I can do with stretch bone is I'm going to take my foot and I'm going to kind of bring it up like this and take my calf here and bring it up like that. And you can see when I can basically, now I can stretch my bone like this, but I want to kind of stretch it upwards like this, okay? So it's kind of hidden a little bit in the background. And also so my left, or my character's right foot isn't breaking through the ground here. We can also take that right heel, kind of move it like this. All right, so now we have this position, he's landing like this. And we also need to move those arms into position. So we're gonna just take his chest. And because we have stretch bone enabled, we can take the chest here and we can kind of move it down like this, take the shoulders, move those down slightly. Okay, you can even take the entire chest here and shrink it down like this. So we're basically going to be stretching our character. You can see he'll shrink down like this. His chest will shrink down. Right here, by the way, what I want to do is I want to also set a key for the full body. This is something I forgot to do, set a full body key right here. And then from here to here, you'll see the shrinking down. Full body key right here. Make sure it's not selected part, full body, when you start your animation. Okay, so it'll shrink down to here. And then we can make that even smaller. Okay, and his neck can kind of, head can kind of come down too. We don't want to animate that too much. That's the head nub I'm animating there. Okay, so notice from here to here, he'll kind of, he's bigger, and then he kind of shrinks down a little bit. And we'll kind of bring those arms in as well. So just like this, we're going to kind of bring the arms a little bit back like this. And this arm is going to be a little bit back as well. Just like this. All right, we're not going to worry about the hand sprites right now, okay? So he's getting ready to launch. And then, so here's the launch starting position, basically. We can probably even bring his head down a little bit like that. And then maybe a few frames later, he's going to be starting his launch. So from here to maybe frame 50, I'm going to adjust the position of these frames a little bit later on, but I'm just going to kind of show you the basic example here. Now we want to have our character launch. So I'm going to keep that left foot locked for now. And what I'm going to do is we're going to take our hip, and this time we're going to move our hip characters up like this, okay? And now you can see we can stretch his leg. If we really want to exaggerate it, we can do something like this, you know, like that. I think that'll be fine. And what I'll do is I'll take my character's right leg here and bring that back into position. Okay, so we'll just kind of move this out. And I'm going to take the knee here. So we'll bring that out like this and rotate it. And rotate that ankle slightly. And then our character's chest now is going to be expanded. So we're taking the torso and shooting it out like this. So if I just kind of scroll through from here to here, now you can see it's really exaggerating that stretch, okay? And this is exactly what we want. I'm going to talk about this with the basketball a little bit later on, but we have stretch like this. Our character's head is, neck is out like that. And head tilted up like this. And we're going to have him dunk with his right hand, okay, like that. Now here I want to stretch out the right arm as well there. Slam dunk. All right, we just stretch it like this. Oops, let's not do that. Let's bring our forearm over a little bit. Just rotate it. All right, there we go. I think that's a decent launch position for our slam dunk. Okay, so we've set three main keyframes here. Our first keyframe, which started our animation here. You can see all the different keyframes. Don't worry about all those for now. And then our shrinking one here, our launch, and then our stretch. Okay, now what we want to do here is we want to set three separate keyframes. And this kind of gets a little bit complicated, but there's if you want to kind of reuse this animation for another character with the exact same distances and everything like that, you can do this using, you don't have to use the transform track, okay? You can just use the motion key editor only. So let's go ahead and try that. What I'm going to do now is we're going to move our character up like this. So we have this launch. You can see it's very slow. Obviously, we're going to change the timing of that. But here we have our character kind of maybe frame 70. He's going to reach the frame, or the rim rather. So let's take our hip. Let's unlock the foot, and let's finally bring him up. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to bring him up here, about this position right here. So he'll kind of just like that. And at this frame, we're also going to adjust his position slightly like this. Okay. And we're going to basically reset all of those stretch bones here. So let's go ahead, selected part here, or rather full body. And if we press reset, what's going to happen is going to go back here. So we don't want to do that. I'm going to press Control Z, undo that. What I need to do is bring all the positions back to kind of regular bone length. So I'm going to go ahead and take my leg, rather the heel. Let's just bring that up. Okay, just something like, we want it to be kind of like this and rotated. We don't want the stretching bones to have any effect right now. We want them to be back to normal. So let's take the foot here and bring that one up like this. That'll be fine. You can just basically look at like a Michael Jordan animation, or a Michael Jordan recording where he's like slam dunking. You can kind of see where stuff is and basically in three different positions. So we have this like that. And then our next frame is going to be basically at the rim. So let's go to frame 85. And again, I'm going to adjust the timing of these a little bit later, but I want to show you the basics. So we're going to take this one, and now we're going to bring our character to the rim. And we're going to bring him a little bit forward, okay? Just like this. So we have it like this, jumping, and then like that, okay? Now here we can probably, adjust the position slightly, a little bit further. Okay, so if I play back, it's going to look really weird, like just like this. So then we have this position right here. He's in this frame, and we'll just kind of take his, because he has momentum going forward, so we'll just take his legs forward like that, and we'll rotate the hip, move the hip rather, slightly forward. Now what we want to do here is we want to lock our character's right hand. Okay, so now the hand is locked, and if we move the arm, now you can see he'll stretch like this. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're just going to keep it like that. Let's just undo that for now, and rotate our character just like this slightly. And we can probably bring his head forward like that. And the arm. This is like very basic. So the keyframe animation is some of the most annoying stuff to do. So here we have like this, and then like that. All right, we have the basics. We have the basic keyframes that we want. Now we just want to adjust the positions and the timing, obviously. So now it may seem a little bit intimidating seeing all these keyframes down here. Don't be intimidated at all, because the only one we're going to worry about right now, if I scroll up all the way, are these 5 transform keyframes right here. Okay, so these are the only ones you need to worry about. We don't even need sprite. We don't need layer. We don't need any of this other stuff really. I'll just kind of keep it there so you can see it. But basically, we only need to focus on this one transform track. So keep it easy for you guys. Okay, so obviously our, if we take a look at the speed of our motion right here, oops. Oh, we need to reset the position here. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Yeah, by the way, at the end of the clip, you should have a keyframe that's consistent with the end of the clip. So just press reset at the end of every clip, and that'll add a full body keyframe. You can also just set a key for the full body, it doesn't matter. Okay, so we have our character running, and then from here, he's crouching. So the position, the timing is too slow. So I'm going to take that transform track, or keyframe rather, and bring it forward. And all the other keyframes will follow suit. Okay, so now we have, maybe that's fine. So what I want to do here is maybe bring it one more forward. Now the jump, obviously, this position to this position here is way too long. So I need to bring that keyframe up there as well, just like this. Okay. Now it looks like, slow motion jump. So like that. So the timing here is very important, and all you need to do is adjust the timing of these transform keyframes. Okay, so I think we can bring this one forward. Okay, now it looks very linear, and that's what we're going to talk about next. We're going to talk about transition curves next. So like that. The thing we want to do here is between these three frames here, the transform keyframes, we don't need to have much worry about the transition keyframes, or the transition curves rather. But I'm going to close this down. I think we're pretty much done with motion key editor right now. And I'm going to show you transition curves. So from here to here, I think it's fine. If we right click on any of these keyframes right here, we can go to transition curve, right? Now, right now, Cartoon Animator 4 is limited to these transition curves here. And what you can do is you can adjust these. So from the first frame where he's like this to this frame down here, maybe we'd want kind of a damping effect. And what the damping does is it kind of goes a little bit beyond your initial position, which is right here, and then it'll kind of go back to the other position. So here to here, and then from here to here, we want to have kind of a decelerate. It's not going to have much of an effect when it's this fast, but if we take a look at it now, I'll kind of like that, just really snap down there and then jump off. Okay, and then from here to here, this is very important. So when he's in the air, it's very important. From here to here, we will have this position to this position here. This one we want to have, if we right click on this keyframe, whoops, go to transition curves. This keyframe is very important. He's going to launch off the ground really fast. So we're going to use this decelerate. So now look at what happens if we launch off. He'll kind of just jump, stretch into that position. So like that. Oops. Let's close that down. Okay. Now it seems like he kind of hangs there. So we need to actually have the last keyframe here. We're going to right click on the last keyframe, transition curve. And this one we're going to do the opposite. Okay. So we're going to have accelerate. So what we have now is it's almost like he's kind of like hanging in the air for a moment there. Now, there's a way we can adjust this. Unfortunately, we can't use this transform keyframe up here right now, but if we play back, the way we can adjust this is to kind of measure the strength of our decelerate and our accelerate. So down here, you'll see there's a strength slider. If we move our strength slider to maybe something like 30, and we move the second one here down from 50 to 30 as well, it'll have less of a less strength, less of a strong effect on what's happening here. So you can see it looks a little bit better. Okay, and maybe even this one here, from this position here to this position here, we can have our character bounce forward or whatever. But there you go. So you have to kind of really adjust those to the level that you want. Maybe this one can even be 20, just so it doesn't seem like he's hanging in the air too much. Okay, if that's the effect that you want, you can go for that as well. So we use something like this. And it's just kind of a matter of getting the position and the timing and everything correct. So there you go. Bring him like that. And from here, we can have him swing forward, maybe a little bit. Let's use that motion key editor one last time. Just kind of move him forward with his hands locked. Just like that. Okay, so then we have this. makes contact right here. I probably don't want this to be as leaning forward as much. This, like that. And then here, what I would do is I would just take that transform keyframe and I would use a damping effect on this one. So like this, okay? So damping effect, you can see it, he kind of moves forward and then back again. Like that. Forward and back a little bit. All right, so basically our completed motion would be like this. Maybe that's a little bit too fast. All right, and then we can also just take this transform key right here, or this one even. Let's take this one here and copy it, right click and copy, and then paste it right here. So we'll eventually kind of go back into the position there, and then there you go. All right, obviously that could use a little bit of tweaking, but what you want to, that's basically the essentials of it. Okay, maybe this one's a little bit too high up. Oh, and then we adjust that. We need to adjust all the other hips as well. There we go. There you go. I'm gonna just leave it at that. So the good thing about this is what you can do is you can actually save this now as a motion in your action menu. So your character's action menu, I can right click. I can go to, before we do this, we need to go to collect clip track right here under our character and just click and drag in that whole track and right click and select add to action menu. Now I'm just going to call this, dunk. Okay. And there you go. Now it's going to be in our character's menu. So if I, for example, now I can right click on my character, remove all the animation on my character at the very beginning, all that hard work we did, but now I have it in the action menu. I can right click and go to action menu and dunk. Okay. And it's always there for whenever I need it. Okay, so that's basically it. Now what I wanted to talk about next is the basketball. We're going to squash and stretch a basketball. So we talked a little bit about stretch bones like that. Okay, we could even just stretch out the bones here as well if we wanted, but yeah, that's basically the essentials. Now, what if I wanted to have a basketball here in my character's hand? Let's take a quick break from the animation. I'm going to just show you quickly how to throw that basketball into your character's hand. So with the character selected, I'm going to go over here to basketballs first of all. I'm going to throw my basketball into my scene, doesn't matter where it is. And I'm going to go over here to the composer mode. And we're going to launch this basketball in Photoshop. Okay, so launch PSD editor. And just launch, doesn't matter the scale right now. And there's our basketball. Okay, fine. We don't need it right now. Just press whatever, doesn't matter. Let's go back into Cartoon Animator and go back to stage. And then we're going to launch our character in Photoshop. So take our character, go into composer mode here. Doesn't matter this, just go ahead and continue. And then we're going to launch our character into Photoshop as well. So you need to have the pipeline version to do this, by the way. So launch PSD editor. That's going to basically just launch our character. We're going to launch the head and body in one file, current angle, and launch it. What we need to do is we need to give our character basketball hands. All right. Don't worry about all this weird stuff on the top. That's just facial masking. I can take some questions on that if you want. But we're going to go to our RL image section under here. We can even just select our character's hand and it'll automatically pop up. Right now, the character's hand is set to relaxed. Okay, you can see the relaxed one right here is visible. In case you're not aware, there's different hand sprites like the relaxed, victory, all these ones right here. The one we're going to use for this is we're going to use this reach, which is this one here. Let's just get rid of relaxed for now. So reached, okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this basketball. Let's just take the image, whatever, basketball image. Don't worry about all this stuff. Let's just basically, we can press the V, rather just move our basketball around like this. What I can do is I can click and drag the basketball and move it into this image over here. Okay, it'll appear above all the other layers. What I need to do is I need to bring it into the hand layer, left hand layer, somewhere down here. Let's bring it down below reach, okay, just for the ease of things. And I'm going to resize it to kind of fit in the hand, just like this. I think that'll be fine. I don't want to spend too much time on this. But what I need to do now is I need to get another copy of my reach hand. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to Control C, Control V. That's going to give me another copy of my reach hand. I'm going to move it over here, right over top of the previous reach. And we're going to call this one B-ball. Whoops. B-ball, like that. Okay, so then I'm going to take my basketball, move it under my B-ball hand right here. And we're going to merge these two layers. So I'm going to shift and select these two layers here. I'm just going to merge them. So right click and select merge layer. So now we have an additional B-ball sprite on our character's hand, right? And basketball may look a little bit small, but that's fine. And then we'll do the same thing for the right hand as well. Okay, I'm just going to repeat the process really quickly. Let's go over to the right hand. Doesn't really matter which hand is visible, okay? Keep relaxed visible there. Let's just select our right hand here and do the same thing. So let's make or actually technically we should have taken that layer before we merged it. Let's go and try to see if we can undo that. B-ball, there we go. Let's Control Z that a couple times. All right, let's take a copy of this layer and bring it over to our right hand. So Control C, Control V. But this basketball, we want to be in the different layer. So let's just move it, click and drag it, and move it up to here for now. Okay, we'll just kind of temporarily put it above here. All right, and then we can merge it. So shift and then merge. Good. So we have the B-ball. And let's take that basketball over to the right hand now. Now this is how you can kind of cleverly switch the hands on the basketball, by the way. I'll take that reach hand. Again, same process, just Control C, Control V. And that gave us this basketball. Oh, there's the other reach. Okay, so we'll just kind of position that right over where we're supposed to there. And take our basketball and bring it over here. And this one needs to be underneath the reach hand, our copied reach hand. I'm not sure where our other reach hand go. So we have two reach hands. This can get confusing sometimes. Okay, so we have two of them. Let's just rename one B-ball to avoid confusion. So this will be the one with the basketball, and then we'll take our basketball and bring it up there. It needs to be under. Are we in the right hand? I think our basketball is in a weird layer here. Oh yeah, we need to bring the basketball down here. Oh, basketball is in left hand, that's why. Goodness sakes, okay. My bad. So it needs to be in the right hand. Let's bring it up here to avoid any confusion here. And then let's open up our right hand. Okay, so we need to bring it into, click and drag down to the right hand folder, and then click and drag down underneath reach. There we go, solved it. Okay, so basketball there. Reach, we can combine reach and basketball, merge. All right, and that's it. We have a basketball in each hand, a sprite for a basketball in each hand. So we'll go to File and Save, and that's all we need to do. Basically, the character now in Cartoon Animator 4 will update automatically. with the basketball in both hands. So now if I go back to my stage mode here, we're not going to worry about dribbling in this case because dribbling would be kind of annoying. That would take a little bit of time as well. I'm going to delete this basketball. Actually, we'll keep this basketball for now because we're going to use that later. And we're going to have our character. We're going to go over here to our sprite editor. And our character's left hand, we have a sprite with a basketball. There you go. Okay. So he's going to be kind of running with the hand, with this ball in his left hand. And then here, maybe cleverly, the hands aren't too close together, but here, maybe at this frame here, what we're going to do is we're going to swap those basketball hands. So the left hand now, we're going to change from that sprite to the relaxed sprite. And then the right hand, we're going to use our basketball sprite. So what it looks like here is it looks like, okay, if you just play back in regular speed, left hand to right hand, okay? Left hand basketball to right hand, okay? And then he goes up for the dunk and yada, yada. Okay, so that's that. The last thing I'm going to talk about is how to make it seem like the basketball goes through the hoop and kind of lands on the ground. Now, I'm going to do two parts to this. I'm going to do like the easy one first, and then we're going to talk about the squash and stretch. So we have this character jumping with the basketball, and then boom. We'll see about here, this frame, you could probably be a bit higher up, but this frame, we're going to do is we're going to change the basketball to a prop now. Okay, so before it was a sprite on our character's hand, now it's a prop. So we'll just kind of zoom in. And we want to get the basketball the same size. So, and rotation doesn't really matter. Okay, just similar size like this. And then we want to right click and remove object animation, obviously. I'm going to bring it down to the position like this, actually, and bring it behind the mesh of our basketball there. Just right there. I think we're going to have to bring our mesh forward. Oh, that's fine. There we go. Okay, and then remove the animation on this one. Now what we need to do is at frame 1, we want this basketball to be invisible. So we can go up here to visibility and go to invisible. And then at the frame where he does a slam dunk, this frame right here, we want it to be visible again. So then we'll go visible. And at the same frame, we're going to take our character's right hand in the sprite editor. And we're going to just have it like a grab, okay, just like this. And of course, we can like rotate this. I would recommend probably rotating the hand to the correct position so it seems like he's grabbing the rim there. Just like that. There you go. So he's like, zoop. And now it changed from the prop ball to our, and probably want to be a little bit higher above the net at that point. But the point is we've changed now from the sprite ball to the prop ball at this frame right here. So this is the beginning frame for our ball, our ball to begin falling. So let's take the ball right here. Let's close this down for now. And from, if we go to transform, we're gonna create a transform keyframe right here just by double clicking in the transform track. And then it's gonna take, I don't know, a few frames to fall to the ground. So frame 75 maybe, we'll have the ball just kind of fall to the ground. Probably should have made this ball a lot bigger, but there we go. So it'll fall to the ground. So then we have the, let's look at the completed animation. He's running with the ball and then slams it just like that. Okay, goes through the mesh and straight to the ground. Now there's a couple things that I want to do here. One thing you can do is as he's slamming the ball, we can adjust the mesh of our hoop there. So they go to Content Manager, or rather Scene Manager. I have a separate mesh for the hoop mesh. And let's say maybe from, this is just a really quick one. we're going to go over here to our prop key editor. And I'm going to basically take my mesh and go to deform. So at deform, what I'm going to do, the D, by the way, in your track stands for deform. I'm going to press reset. And that's going to create a deform keyframe. So here, say maybe from here to here, we can deform the mesh so it's kind of just moving over that way. So here to here, like that, okay. And then we can have it go back. At this frame here, we'll have it, all these 3 points go back to like here. And we can maybe even take that one back as well. Okay, but now we have basically the mesh moving back and forth. And then we can also use the the transition curves for the mesh as well here. So what I want to do is maybe at the final one, transition curve here. Actually, no, we'll take it back to the original point. So left, right, and then we'll copy and paste this original keyframe back to about here. So it'll go left, right, and then at the beginning. So you can add transition curves here, like transition curve here. I would add a damping one. You can see it just adds like kind of like a little bit of bounce to it. So slam dunk, okay. And that slam dunk is way too slow. I definitely want to adjust the timing on that at some point. But okay, so the next 5 minutes, we're going to talk about basically the bouncing and stretching of the ball. Now, this part is very important. This is kind of the main part I wanted to emphasize on this webinar. As the ball lands, we have to have it kind of bounce off the ground, obviously. So I'm going to press F3 and go into our timeline. Let's focus on the ball here. So select the ball, and you can see it opens the transform track here. Ball falls like this. Now we're not going to use transform keyframes in this at all. Again, let's just go back to the position here. We're going to use motion keyframes from the motion key editor again. So let's go ahead at this point here. So our ball falls right here. We can probably have it transform because as the ball is kind of approaching towards the ground, it's going to be accelerating due to gravity, right? So from here to here, it's not going to be a linear drop. It's going to be, we're going to right click on the transform keyframe, transition curve, and accelerate, okay? So as it gets closer to the ground, it's going to accelerate, boom, like that. But then we need to have it bouncing back up. So the easiest way to do this, we'll use a combination of the transform keyframes and the motion keys. I think we're kind of limited on time. So here, he'll bounce back up to maybe frame 90 or so. The ball will bounce back up to, let's say, here. Okay, so then we have this. Goes back up to here. And then what I want to do is I'm going to copy this transform keyframe. It's very useful to do this, the landing keyframe. So right click and copy it. And this is kind of an easy way to kind of smooth out and kind of even out the distance, or the distance between the keyframes. So from here up, and then maybe at frame 105, it's back down. So we'll paste. And don't pay attention to this keyframe yet. Let's actually just delete that keyframe. So from here to here, we'll bounce up and then bounce up again. And as we progress through the timeline, it's gradually going to be less distance between the bounces, right? So we're going to kind of slowly paste this keyframe further down, and maybe here is when we stop. Okay, so from here to here, it bounces, and then we're going to re-add that one keyframe there. So bounce from here to here, so bounce up, and then bounce down, and then from here to here, it'll bounce up again, maybe 50% of the way, 75% of the way, bounce up again, and then bounce down, and then here, slight bounce up, here, and then bounce up again slightly, and down, and then here, one final time, it'll bounce up. Okay, so what we have is this. Okay, it looks fine, but there's ways we can improve it by a lot. Okay, so the first way we're going to improve it is the transform keyframe here is accelerate. as our ball approaches the peak, it's going to decelerate. So this keyframe here, we're going to decelerate. Okay, and then here, we're going to accelerate. At the bottom, accelerate. And basically, just go through all the keyframes, decelerate. That's at the bottom, accelerate. It's at the top, decelerate. Okay, so on and so forth. Basically, this is just to kind of add the momentum, the natural momentum look for your characters, or for the ball rather. Okay, so now if we play back, we're going to have something like this. And that looks a lot more natural in terms of, timing for the ball. All right, so there we go. Boing, boing, boing. And the last thing I'm going to talk about, since we have a little bit more time left, is I'm going to talk about squash and stretching. At this point here, basically what we're going to do is we're going to use the deform keyframes again in the prop key editor, the deform keys here. And there's 3 keys that we need to add for each kind of bounce. One is when it kind of gets to this position here, 2 frames away. We're just going to kind of stretch it out a little bit. So we're going to take these frames or these points here, stretch them out like this. We need to have a reset position right here, first of all, reset. And then, so as he gets close to the ground, boom, and then as he hits the ground, we're going to squash it now, just like this. All right. So from here to here, it's going to squash. And then what we can do is we can copy that keyframe, copy and paste it another couple frames down. So paste like this. So now we have a squash and stretch. As it hits the ground, squashes and stretches. And then you can also just take that one neutral keyframe, copy it, and as it gets close to the peak, you can just paste that at the peak. All right, so now what we have is we have this one kind of squash and stretch like this. Like that. Okay, it looks a lot better. And basically what you can do is you can just repeat that whole process, those 3 keyframes, copy them, and paste them at every bounce. So we'll just paste them right here. And then paste them right here. And as it gets closer to the ground, you don't want to, oops, not right there. Right here. As it gets closer to the ground, you don't want to worry too much about, stretching and squashing too much. You can basically just set it back to its original position. So copy this one here, and at the peak of its jump right there, peak of its bounce, we can paste that, and then paste it right here again. All right, and then we have our squash and stretch. So boing, boing, like that. So that's basically how you can, do a nice bounce and stretch, or rather squash and stretch with a prop, with a ball, and everything like that. Now, if you guys want to learn how to do the squash and stretch with the bounce and the spin together, I can actually show you that in the Q&A section if anyone's interested. But we won't have much time to go into the facial animation. I wanted to have the character land and do a facial animation and refine the facial animation. Kind of got lost in the squash and stretch stuff and the character's movement. But if we have our character, let's just have let's just load in a project, the project I already had saved here. And I think our character lands on the ground. I'm going to show you a really quick, in the next 5 minutes, I'm going to show you some really quick refining facial animation. Okay, there we landed on the ground, good. All right, so our character, say you just ran into slam dunk and then landed like this. We're going to take a quick look at refining facial animation. And luckily, facial animation in Cartoon Animator 4 is super fast and super easy. So I'm going to zoom on the character's face. And we can go ahead and, we can use, the face puppet tool. We can use the facial animation mocap, which I'm going to go ahead and use right now. I'm going to throw in the, let's see, the Face 3D tracker here. So I'm not going to be using the iPhone right now. I'm just going to be using my my webcam. There's me. Okay. Now you can go over here to settings. There's a few settings you can mess around with. I normally don't worry too much about that. My resolution, 640 by 480 normally works fine for me for Cartoon Animator 4. High resolution, you get a bit more detailed results like this. Okay, you can see the spots are a little bit smaller. And then just go to your settings right here. So what I'm going to do is we're also going to make sure that it's always on top. So you always see my ugly face. And we'll throw it down there. And let's go into Cartoon Animator 4. And we're going to go to Plugins, Motion 2D Live. And I'm going to throw in the face 3D right here. And there's me. Wow, like that. Okay, cool. Now we have to have our character selected. Jared S right there. What we can do is with the character selected, I'm going to go ahead and set the character for face 3D right there. And then we have the option to set a 0 pose. Okay. I'm going pretty fast through this facial mocap stuff. It's pretty simple though, to be honest. If you have more questions about it, feel free to ask me. But what I'm going to do is set a 0 pose. Okay, just like this, a neutral, kind of a passport photo pose. Okay, and then we can preview. Okay, there's me. Wow, 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 wow. Hey, how's it going? And I'm just going to move this to the side here. Let's actually, since we're lagging a little bit for some reason, I'm going to take the resolution down to 640. Let's stop the preview here first. And let's get out of the settings there. We'll try that one more time. Is that 0 pose? Okay, so my computer is having trouble with the 1280 by 720. That's a lot smoother, a lot better. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and stop the preview. And we're going to go ahead and record this. Now you can record audio right now. You can record audio in the live motion capture, which I can do right now by selecting your record audio option and recording your microphone. Or you can actually record, you can add it in at a later time if you want. But I'm just going to go ahead and record along with what we're doing right now. So let's go ahead and move my face over here. And I'm going to just go ahead and record. Wow, now that was a slam dunk. Okay, good. So we have basically that saved. Let's go back and whoops. Our character's off the screen. So let's go back to, all right. Let's make our project length just for here. So we can focus on the head animation. Wow, now that was a slam dunk. A little bit longer. Cool, okay. So that's basically the raw motion capture that I did right there. There's a lot of other stuff you can do in here. You can add more data on the next recording. You can smooth the head, et cetera, et cetera. But that's for another tutorial or webinar maybe on facial motion capture specifically. All right, that's all the facial mocap I'm going to do. Let's go ahead and close that down. And we can close down my face here. See you later, chump. And what I'm going to do here is we're going to like basically combine this with facial puppet tool. This is, you know, I'm super lazy animator, so this is kind of like the way I like to do it. Face puppet tool, especially for the eyes. So if I clear the selection right here and I only select my character's eyes, I can preview and I can press space. Oops, there we go. I can move my eyes separately. Okay. So my character before was kind of only looking this way. If I want to look more at the audience, I'd probably move my eyes a little bit over this way and kind of up and down. So it's kind of looking at, you know, the person behind the camera like this. Okay. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. Record and wow, now that was a slam dunk. Okay. And so now we have the character. Wow, now that was a slam dunk. We combine that animation together in like, you know, basically 2 seconds. Now, if we wanted to go, you know, more specific into that, what we can do then is say, for example, at one point I wanted to raise my character's eyebrows, only one of the eyebrows. What I can do is I can blend if I go over here to blend data on next recording, I can select clear it again and just select something like just the eyebrow. And if I preview, you can see I can move that one eyebrow separately. Okay, so if I record, wow, now that was a slam dunk. What's going to happen is now we have that, wow, now that was a slam dunk. That one eyebrow is higher than the others. Okay, and you can puppet it and you can combine everything together. If I want to just, blend head movement over top of it, I can click on 3D movement down here, rotate head. We can preview. Okay, if we wanted, more head movements, we can record again at the first frame. Let's go ahead and give that a shot. Wow, now that was a slam dunk. Okay, so it blended in nicely to the previous head capture. Wow, now that was a slam dunk. All right, so basically if you layer on top of everything, go layer by layer by layer, blend data on next recorder, you can kind of add things really quickly to your initial capture. Now, if I want to, be more specific, what I can do, this last thing I'm going to do here is just go into the 2D motion key editor here. And we're going to just play back. Wow, now that was a slam. Say, for example, at some point I wanted to, not the body key editor there, face key editor, this one right here. At some point I wanted to kind of manually adjust, like his eye position or something like that. What I can do at the very end, maybe I think his eye position is too far to the side. What I'll do here is at the very last frame, I'll take those eyes right here and I'll click and drag and move them closer towards, where he's looking at the camera. Now what that'll do is it'll kind of make things a little bit off over here, for example, where he's kind of looking a little bit too forward. If I go ahead and press default key, what's going to happen is going to kind of basically reset back to the default. I don't want to do that. I'm going to Control Z that. And what I want to do is select my eyes specifically rather here. And I'm going to press F3 and go into the timeline. You need to go into the timeline for this, unfortunately. And go to our face track right here. And under face clip, we have all these keyframes here. Okay, so all these eye keyframes here, these are just keyframes that we can manually adjust. If we don't want any eye movement from here to here, we can click and drag on all those eye keyframes and we can delete them. Okay, so basically from here to here, there's not going to be eye movement. If we want eye movement to happen, if I take those eyes and I move them over here, boom, it adds a keyframe there in the eye track. Okay, so here to here. If we want to maintain eye contact with the audience, from here he's looking at the audience. Here he's also looking at the audience. And maybe here we want it to be a little bit more focused on the audience. You can go ahead and basically delete multiple keyframes and add multiple keyframes at whatever point you want, just to maintain eye contact, with the audience, or maybe looking up and down, focusing on the audience. And then here, obviously, we need to adjust that position back to here. Okay, so you can see the little eye movement right there. We can just delete this one. And the same goes for like the facial muscle features as well there. Okay. If you find that your initial facial mocap, the eye position didn't really have the exact effect that you wanted. Maybe the capture wasn't really that awesome because I'm in less than ideal lighting conditions right here. The eye capture didn't go so well. You can manually adjust that, using your the facial puppet tool. Okay, for initial capture, for initial refinement, and then further refine it using the face key editor tool. Right, so hopefully that kind of helps you guys out, kind of understanding a little bit more about the timeline and about some more advanced animation techniques. There's something I wanted to get. Let's go ahead and really quickly, I'm going to show you with the jump how you can basically adjust the transform position of your character's jump to refine that. We kind of actually talked about that already, but I wanted to talk about the difference between these two keyframe curves up here. These are for transform positions exclusively. So I did take my character. Let's kind of just get rid of all that stuff that we did earlier. Kind of a waste, but I'm going to apply animation really quickly. That same mission animation here, stunt and slam dunk. And we're going to need to adjust the position of it, I guess, because he's way over here. Let's just adjust the position of our hoop, actually. That's a little bit easier and faster. There you go. That's the lazy man's way to do it. Just adjust the position of the loop, hoop rather. So say I wanted my character to jump higher from here. You know, what you would do is let's actually move him a little bit further back at the very beginning here. There we go. So he's going to be jumping from here. Now the starting position, I want to be here. So I'm going to just open up the transform track really quickly. Double click and add a transform keyframe. Here, I'm going to add another one. We're going to move him like way up here. And you can see the green line is way over here. And then as he lands, as he slam dunks on the hoop, he's going to be way down here. Now, this is going to look really weird as he's kind of jumping, because he's going to kind of have an angle of his jump. He's going to go up and down just like this. But what you can do is a very easy way to kind of add a little bit of curvature to your transform movements is just press this button right here, and it adds a little curve. So now if we take a look at his movement, it's a little bit more smoothed out, okay? Just like that. All right, there you go. That looks a lot better in terms of timing for the slam dunk than mine did. I needed to adjust the timing a lot more. But there you go. Okay, so that's kind of how you can just add that little curve on the transform motions to kind of make things a little bit smoother. Okay, let's get to the Q&A section. We have some Q&A questions already set up here. I'm going to try and answer everyone's questions here. Oh, that one was before the webinar started. All right, take a sip of my ginger ale there. First question from Robert Victor. Is it possible to have a character with multiple outfits and various sprites in one character creator file? For example, the left arm with a sprite for a blue sleeve, another for a red sleeve, another for a bare arm. This would allow for changing the outfits without having to reload the character. So Robert, a good question. And one thing to be aware of is the larger your character's sprite library, so the more sprites you have in your character, the larger your character's file size is going to be, and the harder it might be for lower resource computers to handle your character. So we came across this issue, you know, obviously with G2 characters of multiple angles. There's a lot of data in that one character. So the more sprites you have in that one character, the longer it's going to take to load that character, and performance might suffer as a result. So honestly, what I would recommend is just having, in terms of characters with different outfits, just save them as a separate character file. There's no need to have one character with, you know, blue outfit, red outfit, green outfit, all in the same character file. I would recommend just saving those as separate character files. And you can always adjust the visibility like I did with the basketball from one character to the next if you need them to suddenly change outfits, you know, in a flash, for example. So yes, just keep that in mind. The size of the character files will increase the more sprites you have. Okay, so question from Kwan. Will the demonstration be available to participants? Yeah, well, the demonstration file, so the CTA4 file. Yeah, I'll send you a file. We'll send you a project file, guys, for this project that I just did. I'll send you a more refined one than the one that I did. But I'll send you a project file, and I'll also send you a project file that shows the ball kind of rolling and spinning at the same time and bouncing. So if you know you have a basketball that bounces not directly up and down, but at a 45-degree angle, that's kind of a very useful little thing too. Unfortunately, I didn't have time to get to that detail of the ball bouncing, but we did cover the squash and stretch. But yeah, the project file that I'm using here is going to be available to everyone. We'll send that out for you guys. So Cliff asked a good question. Is there a simple method to return character to the original proportions after you've applied stretch bones? So this depends. It depends on a couple of things, Cliff. The first thing is if you have a motion clip that you're kind of editing over top of. It's very easy to do that, and I'll show you how. We have this motion clip already applied here, this slam dunk basically here. Okay, so if, say, for example, right here, I wanted to kind of stretch my character's bones. Let's do a really quick stretch, kind of similar to what we did earlier, 2D motion key editor. We'll just kind of add a, so what I'm going to do here is set key. You can also press reset, okay? If I press reset or set key, it's going to do the same thing in this case. We don't want the face track open. We want the motion track open. Because when we press reset, what reset does is it resets it back to the original data in this clip. So this slam dunk clip right here. So here, if I have my character kind of stretching, let's say here, for example, we wanted to, have the feet kind of stretch down like this. Okay, we'll stretch that out like that. So we have those 2 keyframes right there. He's stretching. And then maybe about here, we want it to be kind of reset back to normal. So if I press set key right here, nothing's going to happen. It's just going to add an absolute key, okay, in my transform track right there. Let's close this transform track to avoid confusion. Right here, okay? And then here, if I press set key, it's not going to do anything. It's just going to add an absolute key. If I press reset, it's going to reset everything back to the original data in the motion clip, okay? So that's kind of easy. And now we have the stretch right here, and then it's gradually going back. So we kind of just emphasize that jump like that, adding that little stretch onto the legs there. And then here it goes back into normal. And then here we'd maybe kind of reset again. And we can use the momentum from here to here, and we'll just stretch those feet out again. So this is going to look kind of silly, but we can stretch them out like that. And then here we just want to reset, obviously. Okay, so then they go, it just adds that kind of root, stretching out, using his momentum when he lands like this. We basically can just press reset and reset it back to normal. Unfortunately, when I was doing the manual editing, I could have saved that as a clip. And is it still the same character on the screen? I can show you that. So when I was doing the manual editing, I think it's the same character, so we should still have it in the action menu. Let's just, yeah, there's our junk. Okay, so that jump, we can do the same thing here with the transform, by the way. Let's just do that quickly. Let's give him like some NBA Jam style distance on this slam dunk here. Peak right here, and he lands right here. Yeah, peak right here, and then lands right here. This is going to look silly, but obviously you want to adjust this a bit more. Okay, there you go. That looks pretty cool. Okay. Yes, but if I did, any modifications like this, like it's the stretch right here, I want to stretch his legs more. Again, same process. I would, before the stretch, I would basically reset. Okay, and that adds an absolute key right there. And then zoop. Again, we'll just close that transform. Here, stretch out the legs by selecting the ankles and zoop. This might look a bit silly, but there we go. And reset back to normal. Okay, so then we have the really brief, the very brief stretch. Okay, there you go. So if you have an underlying motion clip, it's very easy to do that. And that's why I recommend a couple of things here. The first thing I would recommend is saving your project. Every time you have all these like keyframe edits that you've done here to your specific body parts, you want to save your project, because you always want to have these little keyframes available. And what I can do is I can right click on my motion clip. When I have a motion clip available, I can right click on it, and I can also flatten the motion clip. And you can see when I flatten the motion clip, it basically gets rid of those keyframes. It bakes those keyframes, doesn't get rid of them. Big difference. It bakes those keyframes into the clip. Okay. So if I press Control Z, it'll restore those keyframes, those few keyframe edits that I made, that stretch. Okay. If I right click on the clip, I can flatten it, and that'll bake everything in. It'll still be the same animation, but all the keyframes will now be baked into the motion clip. Very important. And if I want to go back, I can right click and I can select sample motion clip. I can sample only the selected parts of my body. So right now the hip is selected. I can sample only the selected parts, or I could sample all parts. If I sample all parts, what's going to happen? Don't worry about all this nonsense here. You could add a change in the previous or the next motion clip if you have it in the middle of something. You'll see it'll add keyframes for every single frame on the character's motion, right? So then you'd have to, obviously get rid of some of these. Thankfully, if I Control Z that, we have an optimized version of that. So if I right click and I go sample motion clip and optimize keys, again, just press OK. Again, sometimes it's a little bit better, sometimes it's not. And then you can adjust it from here. But basically the motion is the same. Okay, and then you can go from there. If I didn't want certain keyframes in the middle there, I can adjust those and delete those, and so on and so forth. That's something very important that I wanted to get into. I'm very glad you asked that, because flattening and sampling the motion clips is a very important part of being able to do some editing, because you want to flatten the clips and then you want to do the editing on top of that, and then you want to flatten them again. But like I said, I want to my ideal method is to save the project every step along the way. Like I'll save it as Slam Dunk 01, Slam Dunk 02, Slam Dunk 03. That's kind of the way I would do it. So thanks for asking that question there, Cliff. Hopefully that answers your question about the reset button there. Subdiacon asks, is there any possibility to export the animations for manual editing or to send to another application? Yes, you can export the, you can't export the bones and all that stuff. The only software you can edit, send that to right now is Photoshop. Pretty soon to be After Effects in the near future, but Photoshop right now. In terms of exporting sprite animations to Unity, yeah, you can definitely do that. I've done that like many times before in the past. So if I wanted to, have a 2D game into Unity, where I wanted to export this animation in sprite form to Unity, what you want to do is you just want to export it as a image sequence. So you go to render image, and you want to select sequence. Okay, not current frame. You want to select sequence. And once I select sequence, basically it'll just export. Let's just do a quick example of this. Okay, we'll just say there. Just make sure your project length is the length of your sequence there. That's fine. You want to export PNG because that's transparent background. We can delete our background there. So what I would do is generally just want to only have the character. Render image, and frame rate, that's fine. So the range is frame 1 to 101. And you want to export, and then you'll just basically, let's go to create a new folder, image sequence. We'll call this dunk. And we'll just kind of leave that for a minute, and it should render all those images. Let's go to our desktop and find Dunk. All right, so here's our image sequence export. Obviously, you want to make sure that you have the character in frame, and you don't want to use root motions. By the way, for sprite editing, you always want to use transform motions, like where your character is stationary, because it's going to render what's in the camera view. Okay, and there you go. So there's all your images. And this is what you would input into like the plugin in Unity as an image sequence. Okay. Okay, so Chuck asks, does Animator 4 allow an option to add a video or movie layer to play behind the character? So to guide by rotoscoping. Yeah, definitely. You can import a video easily into Cartoon Animator. There's a couple of various ways you can do it. I probably have some sort of demo video here. Let's just try and find what are the names of these videos? Let's see. I'm not sure why oh, there we go. Show me the thumbnail. All right, teenage school kids preparing for exams. Let's just click and drag that into our thing right here. Now you can import this in as a background, a prop, various options here. I hope this file format works. Yeah, okay, so there's kids, you know, basically doing their thing in the background. Okay. Yeah, and that's, it won't play back if you scrub through your timeline, but you have to kind of just press the play button. That's how you import a video anyways. Just simply click and drag it. You can import it in as a background as well. The props can be resized. It's like Bitcoin, click and drag it in. If it's image layer, it's gonna basically be in front of our camera the whole time. So this one you'd obviously want a semi-transparent video. You can throw it in the corner there, and this is how you feel when you win at Bitcoin, right? So you have the kind of the little video on the top right constantly there. And it would follow, obviously, the camera movement. All right, so that's an image layer. Any more questions? Like, if you want more detail about those different formats, I'd be glad to answer those questions for you there. Okay, next one. Question from Lay. Is there a way to time it on 2 seconds so that there isn't an auto tweet between all your keys? I'm not sure, not really clear on what you're asking there, Lay or Lee. But you can clarify that question. Obviously, it's between tweeting between the keyframes. Yeah, I'm not sure what the time it on 2 seconds means or 2S means. So I'm just going to go to the next one for now. Dale asks, does the same process apply to put an object in the hand for a G2 character? Yeah, that basically is the same process. You just kind of import in the prop, import it into Photoshop, and transfer it to the layer of the character's hand that you want. All right, and keep in mind that only works for sprite switching. We have bone hand characters now. So for those characters, it's the same process, I guess. It's just kind of your hands are function differently than sprite hands, and it can get a bit more complicated. Dan asks, how do you zoom in and out? Like you're zooming the camera in and moving it around to edit. The way I zoom in and out is I just hold the Alt mouse, the Alt button, and left click and drag to pan around like this. So that's holding Alt and left clicking and dragging. That's the way I kind of go back and forth like this. I can hold Alt and scroll my mouse wheel to zoom in and out. Okay, you can hold Alt and scroll your mouse wheel. If you hold Alt and Shift and scroll your mouse wheel, you can scroll in and out a lot faster like this. Whoa. Okay, so this is just holding Alt by itself. This is holding Alt and Shift like that. You can also hold Alt and both mouse buttons at the same time. And that's another way to zoom in and out. but Alt-Shift in both mouse buttons doesn't work this way yet. Okay, works on iClone, but not Cartoon Animator. So right now, Alt, if you need to zoom in and out fast, Alt-Shift and scroll your mouse wheel is the best way to do it. Okay. Question from Raymond: Is there elastic motion similar to this? Yeah, elastic motions. I was going to use elastic motion on the mesh here. Let's just get rid of this image layer, Bitcoin image layer, since it's kind of annoying. Okay, so the mesh. Let's just play with the mesh, for example. For those of you who are not aware, there are elastic motions in the content manager down here. Some of these are embedded with Cartoon Animator 4, like this one, for example. Let's just make sure we have the mesh selected, the hoop mesh. Go to the content manager. Let's use this bounce up one, for example. Bounce up. Okay, so these are kind of just pre-made motion clips, like that, right? Now, there comes the guy. Now, the problem here is that, obviously, you can't really anchor a certain part of the mesh to the rim, for example. So it'll kind of go up like that. This guy's annoying me. Go over there. So if I tried something like the breeze, for example, this one works okay because the anchor point is at the top. All right, so this breeze one works okay. So we could use this one if we wanted the mesh kind of flowing in the breeze 2. Obviously, this one doesn't work because it's anchored at the bottom. So very important to note. And drag left. Okay, drag right. It's anchored at the bottom, right here. Flip horizontal. That could work in certain cases. The hanging one works okay. It's anchored at the top. Okay, so different elastic motions, they can work in different scenarios. And of course, you can edit these as well. So if I had that one where it kind of went up like this, I can use my add and deform there and put it to the side. So if I press F3 and go into the timeline, you'll see that my hoop mesh, here's the elastic motion that we added. So hanging motion is this one. The deform mesh right here. So that 4 position right there. It's not going to work. Is the elastic motion clip, like here. We can adjust it to maybe go to the side if we want. By pressing Control, by the way, on all these points, you can select multiple points at the same time. Okay. And then here we can also reset all and take it back to normal. So we can have it kind of go a little bit to the side. So reset all works here as well. Reset and reset all are very important. As long as you have a motion clip underlying the edit you're making, you can press reset and reset all, and it'll automatically go back to the default animation from that motion clip. All right, so hopefully that answers your question there, Raymond. So Dale asks, how can you squash and stretch the ball in his hand? Let me think about that for a sec. You would have to have, what you could technically do is you could squash and stretch the hand sprite, but then you would have to have another hand image over top of that hand, because if it's only the basketball that's squashing and stretching, you just have to have them on different layers. That's basically it. And there's various ways to do that. So you could basically like export an image of a hand and export that and link it to your character's hand. And it would just basically be over top of the basketball that's being squashed and stretched. But what I would do generally is I would probably take the ball and put an image of the ball and put it under the character's hands and link it to the character's hands. I think that would probably work. Like if all these different scenarios I haven't messed around with before. So if I took that basketball, where is it? Here we go. Basically just move it behind your character's hand like that. Okay. And then you can squash and stretch it as much as you want. And you'd have to kind of just link it to your character. So link to the bone, the hand bone on your character there. And then, so it's only linked after. Okay, so here to here it's linked. If we go here, here, you know what, I would can stretch it down here. Next frame, I can squash it or whatever. So we'd have squash, stretch, like that. Okay. So you just basically link it and link it to those respectful, link it to the respectful bone on your character's hands. I'm suffering from sunstroke from too much sun these days. All right. Hope that answers your question there, Dale. Question from Dan. Is there a bounce type movement preset in the motion graph thing with basketball? Couldn't you just use that to bounce the ball? Yeah, there's one called ending with a bounce. Unfortunately, it's very limited. So if I take my basketball here, for example, let's just make this guy invisible. I'll get rid of him. Yeah, that's enough of you. So if I wanted to make this animation exclusively with the curve editor, so here, this frame to, you know, frame 30, it'll bounce like that. Maybe that's too many frames in between. But you can see, yeah, I need to make that a lot faster. Let's just zoop. Even faster. Okay, so from 10 frames, the basketball's falling. And this last keyframe, I'll right click it, transition curve, and there's the end and a bounce. So it'd be like this. And then we can kind of stretch it a little bit. Okay, so if we just add that end and a bounce transition curve preset to the second keyframe, then it will literally end and a bounce. Okay. The damping one I kind of want to show you because that was kind of hard to see before. Notice that it'll go down, it'll go beyond the position that it's supposed to be in, and then it'll kind of damp, it'll kind of slowly go back up. So almost like it just dropped in a pond of water or something. Okay, so if your basketball dropped in water, this would be something that you'd want to use because obviously the water is dampening the movement of the basketball. So that would be one you want to use if you're on a hard court. Ending in a bounce is fine. But as you can see, the ending of the bounce, it's one single template. There's no way to adjust the strength of anything right now. So it's a little bit limited in that case. But it's a very, very quick and easy fix if that's what you need. Okay, so Douglas asks, for the basketball, I've been using the link feature to work with props. Does the animation flow better if you edit the hand sprites when using the props? I mean, okay, so the whole thing I did with switching the props or switching the ball from one hand to the other, that's just a little trick I like to show people because everyone's always asking me like, oh, how do I have like, you know, how do I have my character carry things? You know, and obviously you can link the prop to your character's hands like I showed you before. But you know, it's always nice and handy to have those sprites in your library where you can just switch them back and forth like really easily. I like to do that anyways. But yeah, you definitely certainly can just link sprites to your character's hands as well. That works just fine. Dan asks, can you highlight all the keyframes for the eye and move them all to the camera at once? No. Basically, when every frame, when you edit every frame, it's going to add a keyframe for that specific frame. Unfortunately, you can't readjust the position of all the eyes at once. That would be kind of nice, but yeah, unfortunately not, Dan. At this point anyways. Might be a feature that we'll have in the future. All right, Tim, thank you very much. Thanks for enjoying the webinar, guys. Hopefully you learned a lot so far. I know I'm kind of going through some complex concepts in kind of light speed here, but Next question is from Alberto. Do you have an example of how to play with the axis neuron? Yeah, you can use axis neuron for Cartoon Animator 4 as well. I don't have a suit with me right now, so I won't be able to demo it for you. But we may have one in the future, a webinar about using the axis neuron for motion capture in Cartoon Animator 4. If you want to see a webinar like that or a tutorial like that, then just let us know in the feedback form. We'd be happy to. I'd be happy to suit up for you guys. It's not too bad. It's not like a big spandex suit. The perception neuron is just straps that you put on your body. It's not like a spandex suit, so you won't be able to see me in spandex. Darn. Next question is for Warwick. How do we use a motion, separate the arm motion from the whole body clip? Okay, I think I know what you're getting at there. So what I did for simplicity's sake in this demo here is I just used that overall transform keyframe. Like I mentioned in the motion tracks right here, there's the sub transform track, wherever it is. Oh, we need to have the character selected. There we go. Not you. We need to have the this transform track. So down here, okay, we sampled it too much, but you'll see here that we have keyframes for the right foot transform, for the left foot transform. So if I go here and I take my character's like left foot, or you can just even move the keyframe over here. And actually, this is what I recommend doing. All the animation that I did was very uniform. It's just using absolute keys. What I recommend is mixing up these keyframes a little bit. So, taking like this keyframe here and maybe just adjusting this leg, left foot slightly, and so from here to here, it'll be, like this. His left leg will go up like that. That shouldn't do that. Oh, it's because I have another keyframe over here for, other stuff. It got messed up. But yeah, basically what you would do is, adjust it like that. And it's kind of messed up now because I baked or I sampled everything. So there's a little bit of stuff that's going to be going on there. But yeah, those are all the separate tracks where you can modify the separate body parts individually. You don't want to try and do that after you're sampling. It's going to take a little bit longer. Try to do that part in your normal animation. Okay, let's go to the next question here. Thank you, Robert. Question from Nermeen. Can I ask about the shadow for the player in the basketball? Thanks for this webinar. Shadow for the player, I mean, what I would do to create a shadow for the player is have basically another character that is all black. Okay, so what you would do is I would just take my character and launch him in composer mode. And what you can do is you can just take this character and just launch him. This would obviously take a little bit of time that I don't have, but you would just basically set every part of your character to black. So left hand, or let's just use something other than the hand. Let's use like the hip, for example. So this part of our character, if we select this layer, we would just fill it in with black, for example, like that. And like his left arm, like that, and so on and so forth, left forearm. All right, so just say I did that for like the entire body. All right, let's actually do something different. And then basically you would just bring him back in and update the character, and then you could save him as a character, as a shadow character. Let's try something different. I'm going to bring in another version of him. So obviously you have to resize it and stuff. You can probably do something over here in the render style. Take the brightness down to 0. There you go. Okay, there's an easy way to create a shadow. Go over to render style and just take your character's brightness down to 0 and close it down. This action that I saved, let's just reset everything here. I'm going to save this to an external file. So I have a shadow on the character. This is what I would probably do. Collect clip and just right click and add export motion. So export, and let's just export it to our desktop for simplicity's sake. Dunk. Okay. And then frame 1. Okay, that exported. And we'll set our character to the same transform position here. So we can actually just take him back to, well, this is fine. So what I'll do is I'll apply that same motion to my shadow character. Where is it? Dunk. Jabu. Okay, so then we have, I have to position them and obviously put the shadow behind the character. Just, slightly off, something like this. Maybe a little bit down. You can probably, put it on the ground like this a little bit just to stretch it. So I don't know. Let's say the shadow is right there. And we'll play it back. Okay, and then you have your kind of character shadow running along with him, just like that. And obviously when he jumps, you may need to reposition it slightly because, the shadows don't jump along with you. At least not. What was I watching? I was watching the X-Files the other day. There was this episode where this guy's shadow was like killing people. Obviously that doesn't happen in real life, but for here you would probably just take the transform keyframe and make sure the shadow is still on the ground. I think this would probably work. Yeah, and then maybe it would need to be even further crunched down. You get the point. There's your shadow. That's how I would do it anyways. All right, hopefully that answers that question for you, Nermeen. Yeah, just use if you're lazy, just use the render settings. There's no need to basically go through that whole song and dance of changing your character's color to black. Question from Nat. Do I need to build masks for my character? Company logos on clothing? Yeah, so yeah, the masks, you can have masks on your character for sure, since COVID is like, a big thing these days, unfortunately. And the way you would do that is you would just take your character, what I would do, honestly, what I would do, I mean, you can do it in Photoshop as well. But what I might do is I might just link it as a prop to my character's face. Unfortunately, I don't have any masks handy, but yeah, I would link it as a prop to my character's face. You can also add it add it as an accessory as well. So in composer mode here, oops, not the shadow guy. Composer mode, if I continued here, I would go to the content manager, and there's like things like accessories. Okay, so actor accessories. Maybe there's which one could act as a mask? I don't know. Not that one. Let's use this one as a mask. So I would basically attach it to my character's neck bone there, or face bone. Where did it go? Oh, there it is. And probably something like this. Make sure it's covering the nose, of course, right? So, okay, that works okay. The neckerchief, it's supposed to be for the neck, but I would basically just throw that as an accessory on top of the character. And go back to stage mode here. And there you can see he's running along with the handkerchief on his face. And then you can edit that separately, okay? That's because it's an accessory, it's not part of the character. You can actually modify it separately, which is really cool from the character. So you could reposition it and squash and stretch it as needed, okay? Just like that. Cool. Hopefully that answers your question there, Nat. Next question is from Emmanuel. Is it possible to animate a character's turning around, facing three quarters right, then 3/4 left? With the limitations of the G3 characters there, Emmanuel, there's no like smooth rotation. There, I mean, you can make it look like simulate like the body is rotating. We do have it for the head, for example, like, you know, if I well, you guys should all know about the 360 heads, right? Let's take our character's face here and puppet it around. Okay, so this is the disadvantage of the accessory. It won't rotate with the 360 head. So if you want to rotate with your head, then you need to put it on in Photoshop. So this is the advantage of, you know, that. Let's just get rid of it for now. Should delete. There we go. Yeah, so I mean, you can simulate the character's face moving around like this. Now with the body motion capture, you can also simulate turning around as well. But all it's doing with the body simulation, body mocap simulation, is it's just kind of scaling your body in different ways. So I'll show you a cool feature with Cartoon Animator that you can bring it. You can actually apply a motion, a 3D motion to your 2D character. I don't believe we can apply it to. Let's just go over here. I'm just going to find a quick way to find my iClone files here. Animation is in motion. Let's find like a dance motion here. Do we have any dance motions? Yeah. The Beat It dance. Oh, Mr. Roboto. Yeah, so you can't apply it to the G3 characters, unfortunately, but you can apply it to G2 characters. If I bring an actor in, and this is going to be remedied fairly quickly. We're going to be able to apply those 3D animations to G2 to future characters as well from iClone. I've seen the future and it looks bright. So you can apply those cool iClone 3D animations to your 2D characters. Right now it's limited to G2 characters. So I'm just going to show you that process here just to kind of show you the scaling. So if we did a Mr. Roboto dance onto, what's her name here? Emma. We need something where she's turning around a bit more, but okay. Probably could have, let's try and find a dance where, maybe a Thriller dance. Should have done that one in the first place. Okay, I'm just trying to look for scaling. Okay, so here's a kind of good example of scaling. So notice right now her right leg, especially right here, is like a lot shorter than her left leg. And that's basically because in the animation, the right leg is actually further behind the left leg. So the way that Cartoon Animator, it'll translate that is it'll scale it. It'll scale it so it looks smaller and more in the background there, okay? Yeah, and then now you can see the leg stretching out. And so here's a very good example where the knee is way back. And so this is where the foot is actually supposed to be behind the character's body. So it's scaling it to simulate that look of perspective. So you can do that on G3 characters, like I showed you with the stretch bones and everything like that. It just takes longer, and you can't automatically apply it. Okay, question from Jacob. After the movements are created, I decide to use all the movements, but would like to change the background. Well, I'd be able to save the scene and change the background maybe to a scene like the neighbors drive away. Yeah, Jacob, if you want to learn how to save scenes, let's say, for example, what do we have in this scene? We have the hoop. I kind of deleted the background, I guess. Let's just throw in a couple props here. Let me just... Okay, so he's on a stage. Right? He's dunking on a stage. And let's make sure this is at frame 1 when we do that. Okay, so we have this. And we have a guy in the background announcing the dunk contest, we'll say, okay? So I'm just basically creating a simple, stupid scene here. Zoop. Let's move this one further back. Okay, I'm spending too much time modifying these props here. All right, but say we want the stage and the pulpit there and the microphone all in our scene. So you can see here we have the microphone, podium, background, stage. If we select them all and right click, we can select convert to scene. Okay, so shift select them all and right click and convert to scene. And now they're all part of a scene. And now what I can do is I can go to my content manager. I can go to custom and to scene custom rather here. And I can press, Kai is dumb. Why did I write that? Plus here. And then it's going to basically save that scene. Or it should. There you go. Lame scene. Okay, and then I can just, delete my background, delete this, delete that. And then I can double click on lame scene and bam, everything comes back into play here. And it's all part of a scene. Okay, so that's how you can save and re-add your scenes there. Hopefully that answers your question there. Elliot asks, what is the advantage of flattening the clips? So as you can see, like with my character who is doing the slam dunk, wherever he went, where is he when I need him? Okay, well, he's way over there. Let's select the character there and go to the motion track. Yeah, let's go to the keyframe editor. Where's all his, did I flatten it again? Oh, I might have flattened it. Anyhow, we can always just right click and sample it again. Let's just try optimize keys and see what that does. All right, it's still a lot of keys. Okay, but say like, obviously there's so many keyframes here. And if I make an edit at like this keyframe right here, let's just delete a bunch of these actually for now. Okay, so say from here to here, like my character's moving like that. And, I don't want any of this. Like if I make a edit right here on the hips, for example, it's going to go here and then back up. Okay, so down, down and back up. Whereas if I had, so down and back up, whereas if I basically bake that, if I go right now and I select the clip there and I bake it, or sample it rather, or flatten it rather, so it'll still go down and back up, but now I can like start here and I can just, move it to the side, and then it'll always be to the side. It won't go back to the last keyframe, if that makes sense. Hopefully that makes sense. There was a keyframe. Let's go back and show you from the start here. So there's a keyframe here at frame 54, right? Regardless of what I do, there's this keyframe at 54. the edit that I made was at frame 48, back down. Say, for example, I wanted everything after frame 54 to be a little bit to the left or a little bit down. Okay, so I made this modification. I took it down at frame 48, but at frame 54, it goes right back up to the top. Well, I mean, what I can do is I can go and adjust all these keyframes so they're like a couple inches down, or I can just flatten the clip like this. And so this is my part where he's down, and I just add a keyframe right there. Go to the motion track, set key, and then I go here and I move it back down. Now from this frame forward, they're all going to be down. Okay. So whereas previously it would go back up, now from here on, they're all down. Okay. So I don't have to worry about all those other keyframes that are back. It's just a way of kind of cleaning up your edits, I guess you can say. It goes through layers. Like I mentioned, do your modifications, save the project, and then flatten your clip, and then do your further modifications. That's the process that I go through. And that's kind of why you want to flatten the clip. So Alberto asks, can you make a webinar for SkinGen? Yeah, SkinGen is like all the rage these days. It's our new product, in case you're interested. It's a new plugin for Character Creator 3. I would highly recommend checking it out if you're in the 3D realm. Okay, question from Posey here. Exporting a motion clip series or collect clip, they almost always never work or crash my program. Fault to my export of motions into custom. So I kind of ran through the process of saving clips, saving motions. Now keep in mind that I'm going to show you guys a very quick example of what I was talking about earlier. I'm going to talk about a ball spin. Okay, so we're going to take this basketball, and this is important because I want to kind of go through this real quick here. But where's our basketball? Where are you, Gary? All right, basketball right here. And don't worry, I'm not going to be giving you this weird project with all the weird crap in it, like deformed shadow and stuff. Okay, so let's say, for example, I have this basketball and I want to save a motion into this basketball, into my action menu. Well, if I go down to like frame 10 and let's just make it smaller first so we don't have to zoom out so much. If I go to frame 10 and move my basketball down, zoop, you can see the transform line behind it, and boing, okay. And there's my two transform keyframes. Now, if I collect a clip and I try to save this, I right click and I go add to action menu. Let's call this bad bounce. Okay. What's going to happen is if I go to over here somewhere and I right click on my action menu, bad bounce, nothing's going to happen. You'll see it applies a motion clip, but nothing happens. Okay. And that's basically because the transform data doesn't get saved into your motion clips, doesn't get saved into your action menu. And that's why I was using the motion key editor before, as opposed to using the transform keyframe, as opposed to using transform position. I was using the motion key editor. I was using the hip of my character to transform the position, as opposed to the transform keyframes. So if I did want to create something, let's go ahead and take a look first. I'm going to create a bounce. So the way I would do this is I would use the prop key editor right here and use transform, not deform this time, transform, okay? And I would move my transform position down like here. So now you can see it falls just like that. Okay, so we have boing, like that. And then let's maybe go to like frame 15, just make it a bit bigger, a bit longer, because I'm going to show you how to save the bounce. Yeah, okay, we don't need that frame right there. So, oh, 15 will be fine. Okay, so we have like here, and then what I'm going to do again is I right click and copy that frame, and then I just paste it here, paste it here, paste it here, and maybe just paste it here. Just gradually getting smaller and smaller, and then maybe you're fine. And so bounce, and then here it'll bounce up, and then down, and then up, and then down, and then up, down, up. All right, so just kind of leave it like that. So boom, 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 boom. Okay, good enough. And then obviously what you'd want to do again is that that process where it's transition curve, accelerate, decelerate, accelerate, decelerate, fun stuff. Decelerate, accelerate. We're almost done. Decelerate. Okay, good enough. Then we have, okay, looks good. We have a nice kind of steady bounce. Now, what's going to happen is if I copy this in the clip track now, like this, I guess my ball's out of the scene. So right click, add to action menu. We'll call this good bounce. Okay, and then we'll go over here, right click, action menu, good bounce. Now you can see it applies, right? And we have this clean clip. We have no edits under the transform track. We have this clean clip like right here. Okay, and it looks good. All the bounces are well timed out. So what we can add onto here is we can actually add some spin onto here. So what I'm going to do is now that we have the clean clip, we don't have these transform keyframes. I'm going to go let's start frame. Let's move it to frame 65 just to kind of keep everything even here. Okay, so frame 70, I'm going to rotate it. So again, we're going to use the transform track here, or the propagated or transform rather. And we're going to rotate it 90 degrees. So 90, enter. You can see it adds that transform key right there. Frame 75, we're going to go to 180. Frame 80, we're going to go to 270. And then frame 85, we're going to go back to 0 or 360. It doesn't matter. Okay. So now we have the spin. We have the ball spinning. And what we can do is basically just, this one is the 90 degrees. We can copy and paste all these keyframes at 5 frame intervals, just like this. Okay. Doesn't matter if we go over. So now we have the ball spinning and bouncing at the same time. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to do another clip track, another collect clip to here. And let's move down to here so it's spinning a little bit more. Right click, and we'll add this to action menu, and we'll call this bounce underscore bounce and spin. Enter. Okay, enter. And then we'll go down here, and then what I can do is I can just right click and, oops, close out here first. Right click, action menu, bounce and spin. So now we have that bounce and spin. All right, so the ball is bouncing and spinning from here to here, boom, 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 like that. So now what we need to do is we need to adjust the transform position. Now we can do that, and then of course you can squash it as well. But what I would do next is adjust the transform position. So it's going to fall from here to here, here. What we can do is we can just kind of move it over here. So, but we need to adjust the transform position first. It's Control Z to add a transform keyframe here. When it falls, it's going to go a little bit further down. Unfortunately, there's no green line behind us to show us where the indicators are like there is with transform position, but we have it from here. So boing, and then here, the peak of its jump will be a little bit forward. So here, and then a little bit forward. And then It hits the ground there, a little bit further down. And then as it reaches the peak, a little bit further. And of course, I'm just totally eyeballing this, guys. So, I mean, you definitely want to do a better job at measuring this stuff. And then here, a little bit forward. And then here, lands a little bit forward. And then finally, one final jump. And here it lands a little bit forward and then rolls to maybe about here. Okay, so then what we would have is this. We'd have, and you can see from here to here, there's the jump is way too far. We could probably take it back quite a bit, but there you go. Okay, it kind of jumps forward a little bit, but there you have my bouncing and spinning ball at the same time. And so once you have the position correct, then you can do the squash and stretch. So the reason I'm leaving squash and stretch to the very end is because if you squash and stretch before you do the rotation, then it's going to look weird because your squashing is going to be rotated in different ways. So then I would basically go here. And again, then we can, repeat the same process. Add action menu, we'll call this bounce and spin to side. Okay. And zoop. Action menu, bounce and spin to side. Oh. Should be going to the side. That should, I think maybe I used the wrong transform. Oh, I did use the wrong transform. Oh, darn. Okay. Anyways, yeah, if you have the transform, basically everything like the spin and everything should also do the same thing. So there you go. Yeah, I was using this transform, which is not the transform you want to use. Okay, but if I did use the transform in here, this transform, then we would have no problem. All right, but anyways, then you would basically, just add your squash and stretch in here. Go to deform instead of transform, and then stretch like so. Basically, you can see it's a little off. The axis is a little bit off, so you just have to kind of adjust these individually like this. So, and then here you'd want to reset. Okay, so that reset, we have the clip, right? So it resets, squashes here, squash, and then whoop, copy this, or you can even just reset it back to normal again, reset. So we have the squash, just a one quick squash. And then obviously you can't use the same squash again because the ball is rotating. That's the unfortunate thing about the ball rotating is you would, you'd have to here have the squash one more time. And see now the axis is totally different. So you'd have to kind of squash it this way and take these three lower ones and squash them up that way. And everything's all turned upside down. But basically, yeah, same thing here, reset. So squash. Now it looks a lot better, like, okay. And that's the ideal way to animate like a bouncing ball. All right, whew. Hopefully that answers your question there, Posey. I think that's important to know for everyone, just basically the difference between transform. And I kind of demonstrated it with my own mistake by using the transform instead of the prop key editor transform. Question from Kirk. Can you go over the construction of Jerry's 360 head and how it works? Kirk, maybe just email me at a separate time because considering the head deconstruction kind of takes a lot of detail and it's not specifically kind of the topic of this webinar. But you can just email me, kai@reallusion.com at a later anytime, and I'll get back to you about deconstructing a 360 head, since that gets into a lot of detail there. And I kind of want to focus on the animation aspect of things. Yeah, kai@reallusion.com. Suppose he asks, why can't Pop Video work with Cartoon Animator 4? It should be able to. I haven't used Pop Video in like years, so I can't really say if it works or not. That's probably a customer support issue. I would talk to them about it. Maybe it just hasn't been updated or something. But yeah, sorry about that. So Kenneth asks, can you still design characters for Cartoon Animator 4 in Adobe Animate? I've never tried that, but Adobe Photoshop definitely works. I think that a lot of the Adobe Animate characters you can customize in Photoshop as well. So you can't use Adobe Animate to customize our characters, unfortunately. Pavel asks, can you put more than one image layer into a scene? You can, but they're just kind of I think that if you put more than one image layer into a scene, they kind of conflict, from what I recall. Let's just see really quickly. Let's use some faces of people. Image layer. Okay, so there's Adriana. Oops. Dagmar, that's a cool name. Image layer. Oh, it's the same woman, just a different position. So I guess there's no longer that conflict. I tried this a long time ago. You can't adjust the Z position of these. So you can see there's only X and Y. Okay, so they don't kind of go. You can adjust the send to back, like here, the layers move to top, but you can't manually do it. So you just kind of have to organize them this way, send to back. Let's try and find a different face. Dita should be different. She is different indeed. So here's like the before and after. Send to back. It didn't seem to work. Oh, there it did. Okay. So now we have the, that's the only manual way to manually do it. And of course they would be constantly, they have transform resize and the visibility, but and opacity. So you can see the transform resizing that I did, but they're always going to be on top of the screen just like this. So yeah, I guess you can have more image layers at a time than one. I remember there was a conflict in previous versions though. Whoops. Yeah, I hope that answers your question there. Candy asks, can I import a character that I create in PSD? Yeah, absolutely. But you need to export the PSD first. So you need to export our character into Photoshop and then use that template. You can't just import in any old character from PSD. I mean, you can, but it's not going to be compatible with all of our motions. So Daryl asks, does the same process need to be used if using the Leap controller to pick up a coffee cup? Then use the controller to drink from a cup? I mean, obviously with the Leap motion controller, that's motion capture. So you would basically do your base animation first, and then I would add the coffee cup in later. If you want to have your character drinking coffee, you can, I mean, have the prop linked to the character first. But what I would recommend doing is I would recommend going through the motions first and then adding the prop afterwards, just because there's a lot of stuff that can happen between those two points. That would be my workflow. I mean, other people might have other ways of doing it, but so yeah, Elliot asks, why not link the ball to the hand instead of using a sprite? Good question. Yeah, you can also link the ball to the hand as well. Just like having that kind of stuff in the sprite library. So Raymond asks, what would be the best way to bring a G3 character front-facing body part closer? Like if the character wanted to bounce the ball coming to the camera. Well, the body part and the ball are totally different. Let's get rid of these image layers first. Let's do them separately. Whatever. Get out of here, you. The characters, like if my character's head was coming towards the camera, for example, you know, what I would do is I would just use the keyframe editor again here, motion key editor, and select the head and just kind of like make it a little bit, oh, I'm using the wrong one here. There we go. Bring it forward like this, and let's see. What are you doing here? Yeah, oh, that's a good question. I need to be able to select the head separately. Okay, maybe do it this way. Yeah, you'd have to transform the different things that make them larger using the face key editor for the head specifically. So from here to here, that, I mean, it looks like the character's head is coming closer to the camera. So that's what I would do. I would have like here, head keyframe, and here like make it larger. So then if I go into my face track, what am I doing here? Yeah, motion track here. It should be in my facial clip somewhere. A face motion transform, yeah. Faces get a bit more complicated when you're dealing with this stuff. This deform or transform? I should have a sprite in here, or this. This is weird. I think it might be in my motion. Is there a face in here? Oh, there it is, face. Gosh. All right, so the face, I guess this particular face is in your body transform, which is kind of weird because it's a face, but there's the two keyframes. So that would be my head moving forward towards the camera. And probably I'd want to rotate that at the same time. So I would go to, you know, use these rotation and have it, you know, kind of rotate. So here's like, what? Oh, take these back to normal at this frame here. And so here it'd be like, what? Okay, so that's how you would have like, you would simulate, you know, your character like closing in on the camera. Body parts are similar. Okay, but obviously body parts, you wouldn't use the face key editor like I used here. All right. Hopefully that answers your question there, Raymond. Does the motion, Michael asks, does the motion capture hardware that works with iClone work with Cartoon Animator 4 as well? Yep. So basically, if you purchase your gear profile for iClone, you also get the free gear profile for Cartoon Animator 4. So you don't have to purchase it twice. You can just purchase for one thing. And let me just okay, good. Douglas asks, any plans on syncing Apple Motion with Cartoon Animator 4 like After Effects? I think we're kind of looking at something like that for the next version, but I can't really comment on it right now, Douglas, unfortunately. But we are always looking to improve the software, and I think that's something that if you guys do want to see features like that, I absolutely recommend putting that into the survey. That's the word I'm looking for, that we're going to send out later. All right, thank you, Eric, for joining up today. So Pavel asks, can you unbake motion keys? Yes, so the unbake is basically the same as sampling, like I showed earlier. So flattening and sampling, that's basically sampling is unbaking. Or just press Control Z, but not, unfortunately, you can't do the exact unbake to the exact keyframes you had earlier. That's unfortunate, but that's just the way it is right now. I mean, you can, but you'd have to maybe delete some extraneous keyframes. Okay, Nermina asks, is it necessary to be good at Photoshop? You know, not really. I'm not good at Photoshop. I get by. I'm terrible at Photoshop. Even though I should probably be a lot better with these years of experience, but I don't use it too often. So I always forget things, and you don't need to be really good at Photoshop though, but it does help for sure. So Daryl asks, can your characters walk away rear view? They certainly can. Yep. You just need to have that character model that is in the rear view. So basically looking at the character from the back. And then basically, like I said, you would simulate the character moving back and forth on the Z-axis here. So again, the Z-axis, this one down here, that's the little gizmo at the bottom of the character. You would move that to adjust the character's position on the timeline, or on the stage rather. Okay, we're in the home stretch here for questions. Jonathan asks, I'm looking for 2D software with decent particle systems. I can create collisions when making 2D games easily. Do you think Cartoon Animator 4 will have a plugin for in the future for particle collisions? Oh, particle collisions, yeah. There's something in the works for that I did see. I mean, we do have the popcorn effects particles in iClone, and I believe there's progress in towards something for 2D as well. That is a feature that's been asked many times. But again, I recommend, the more people that ask for a feature, the more likely it is that we'll add it. So if you guys all want to have like particle collisions and stuff in Cartoon Animator 4, definitely put that in our survey. I think that's a really cool thing to have. So Jonathan also asks, is it possible to save the render size within the render scene? Save the screen size as a template with the render section. So unfortunately, Jonathan, in the render section, render images, there's a custom one down here. There's others. Just need to close this down here. But it doesn't seem to do anything. But I know that you can't really, you have to go along with all these presets here. Others should change that, but yeah, for now you have to go with all these presets. I'm gonna say that safely. I've never used a custom frame size, so I've just kind of always gone with this stuff. Yeah, so it's kind of a non-answer on there, but that should do something, but I guess not right now. Yeah, so someone mentioned there's a face mask in the Relusion Marketplace. Probably, there's tons of stuff in the Relusion Marketplace. Highly recommend checking it out. Joseph asks, do you also plan to have face replacement similar to the app in Facebook? Not sure what you're kind of getting at there, but you can definitely replace the faces as much as you want in Cartoon Animator 4. There's really no limit to the facial placements. So Joseph asks, the pipeline I've been struggling with in the hair placement and facial shadows on my character. So yeah, I kind of talked about the shadow thing already there, Joseph. Unfortunately, with the facial shadows, like shadows on your character's face, that all needs to be done manually. So what you would do is you would attach, those like shadows to your character's face, or add them to your character's face as sprites, and you would need to deform those according to the movement of your character's head. I don't have time to get into that right now, but there is a way to do it. But what you need to do is take a look at those 360 head creation tutorials and add the shadows onto your character's face via that tool. And changing angles smoothly, I kind of talked about that as well. With the head, it's a little bit easier. With the body, you have to scale things, like I showed earlier, to kind of simulate the 3D effect. So another question, Joseph. When I edit the character in Photoshop, the campus character in Photoshop, and return back to CTA4, the character looks weird. I kind of showed you the process. If you just kind of follow the process that I went through, you shouldn't have a problem. If you do, there's something wrong. And if it looks weird, you need to have more troubleshooting on that. I need more detail on what looks weird. So Next question, can you do a full human face 360-degree angle? Yeah, the Angry Bird tutorial is the only one that I would suggest following for that. There's a tutorial that talks about how to do a full 360 angle face. So you can technically do it. You can technically do that. It just takes a lot of time. So you can have a 360-degree face, your character's head kind of rotating around like a, what's that? Exorcist. You can do that in Cartoon Animator 4. It'll just take you a little bit longer to get all the angles because you have to kind of put them all in. It wouldn't take that long actually. I would say less than half an hour, but maybe 20 minutes. But yeah, you could definitely do a 360 head. That's kind of why they're called 360 heads. Yeah, hopefully that answers that question for you there, Joseph. I don't have time to go into the details of the 360 head creation. If you guys want more webinars on 360 head creation in the future, feel free to just put that in the survey for you. But I think we're kind of at the end of our webinar for today. We've gone through all the Q&A questions, a good 54 questions from you guys. So thanks for the participation. And thanks again, everyone, for attending today. I know I kind of went on a long streak here. There's a lot of stuff to get through. When it comes to advanced animation, I mean, there's the really quick animation where you just apply templates from the content library, and then there's a detailed frame by frame animation, which takes a lot more time. And that's why Cartoon Animator 4 is really good for just quick and simple and easy and dirty animation with the facial mocap, the body mocap. And then if you want to go into the more details later on, you can just easily do that, via keyframe editing rather. All right, but I'm just going to bid everyone adieu. Thanks so much, everyone, for attending today. Don't forget to fill out the surveys for us to get the discount from the content store and to get that free content pack as well. Yeah, and make sure you always check on our forums over at forum.reallusion.com. We have a lot of users there who are kind of sharing information with each other, troubleshooting, and there's also a section there if you come across bugs. I encourage you to check that out and fill us in on the bugs that you're encountering. We'll get on to fixing that. All right, but thanks everyone. Love you all. Take care, and hopefully you're all healthy, staying healthy in these challenging times. We're all in this together, blah blah blah, all that stuff. So yeah, thanks everyone for being here, and I'll bid you adieu and see you in the next webinar.